as grievous as was the blow, as terrible as is the suffering, as overwhelming and demoralizing as has been the ensuing chaos, and as discouraging as has been the spread of falsehoods and the seduction of the educated, it is no surprise to the historian that a mighty nation like the United States could rapidly decline into such moral depravity. It is no mystery to the scholars of Babylon and Rome, of Byzantium and Athens, that great governments are brought to their knees, not by an external enemy, but rather by the substitution of superficial rituals for moral action, by a spiritual blindness that strikes down the best and the brightest. This moral virus has infected the minds of those who should have known better, and the door was left ajar for the crafty and the cunning to surreptitiously sneak in and slip a collar around the eagle's neck, rendering justice a pet for their idle amusement. We have no time for laments standing here on the battlefield. The cruel powers have unleashed their dogs of war, and they are ripping our institutions to shreds, tearing the living heart out of our government and our schools, and leaving behind our values and beliefs as rotting carcasses for the jackals to feed on. These stealthy forces keep shifting their forms to confuse us. Now conservative, now progressive, now black, now white. What we know with certainty is that the current lull in the battle is the bait that they have laid out for us. They are planning a final assault. As we stand here, dazed and confused, they want us to be absorbed in our selfish needs, stewed in the narcissism of the smartphone, lost in the cult of the self, and incapable of organizing our thoughts, or of mustering bravery, or of rising to the occasion. Their weapons are different. Rather than a tank, they use a vaccine syringe for their first melee. They use AI and commercial media as a means to reprogram our brains, rendering us as docile beasts that chase after food, pornography, and glittering images. We did not even notice how they made us dependent on them for food, for energy, for information, and now for our very identity. No single column still stands in the temple of government that our founding fathers erected. The beasts have carved the executive branch up into private fiefdoms and leased them out to foreign banks. These days, those involved in governance are patted on the head and rewarded for tearing apart the edifice, for doing the bidding of their hidden masters. The members of Congress, regardless of their color or flavor, thrust their snouts deep into the public trough where they devour the slop shoveled their way by the high priests of Mammon. There are only two parties left, the pimps and the whores. The gangrene flowing through the veins of the judiciary is foul. It corrupts everything that it touches, rendering judges and prosecutors unfeeling, incapable of, and unwilling to uphold the Constitution or to do anything that might displease their true masters. Newspapers, magazines, universities and research institutes, corporations and foundations are now spigots that spew forth lies. An evil spirit has possessed the public sector, rendering it a monstrosity. It slouches toward your neighborhood with a syringe in hand. In light of the collapse of all branches of the federal government and the slip of civil society into the dark abyss of decadence and narcissism, we citizens declare that a provisional government of the United States of America is established hereby that will serve as a midwife in the painful but promising rebirth of this nation. The words of this declaration limn the direction forward for our nation and suggest the contours of our future. The provisional government of the United States of America will distinguish itself from the wreckage now occupied by jackals and hyenas by its strict adherence to our sacred Constitution and to the spirit of the law. The provisional government will administer as much of the United States as it can, granted the tremendous challenges that we face. The roots of our government are planted firmly in the hearts of patriots, of citizens committed to liberty, justice, and freedom. The provisional government will lay the foundations for an accountable government capable of addressing common concerns about the economy, society, and security, hand in hand with those citizens, with those patriots. The United States has a noble tradition of democratic governance. The inspiration for our nation, however, must be traced back to the American Revolution of 1776 and the Revolution against slavery of 1860. Our political philosophy must be its original form, which is revolutionary. And this is a moment in which that tradition must be revived. The Declaration of Independence was the first step, a break with the British Empire. This Declaration of Independence is a break with the insidious empire of finance and speculation run by billionaires and their servants. We hereby declare our independence from that empire of corruption and pillage, that empire of foreign wars and manipulative media, that empire of processed foods and needless medications forced on us for profit. Our founding fathers declared, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is the duty to throw off such a government and to provide new guards for their future security. We provide now precisely the new guards for the future security of our children and our grandchildren. We do so through the formal establishment of a provisional government of the United States to oversee the rebuilding of the Republic and the rebuilding of a constitutional democracy for our beloved nation.